5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Snarf, snarf.
What was that from?
Thundercats. Oh.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Mr. T.L. James.
Hola.
Hola. Right, who have we got? Ah, thank you for liking the stream, Sully. How are we? So put that so it stops going ping, 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 ping.
Hola. Hello, pup.
Kirsty, where have you been? We were all starting to wonder. What we're wondering, I don't know, but we were wondering something. Hello, May. So, hello, Jackie.
Jax.
Thank you, Kev.
Hi, Kev.
Much appreciated.
Hi, Anne.
Alrighty. Let's move that somewhere out of the way. Let's get rid of that. Hello, Sophie. Right. I'm hoping Andy is on here this evening, as finally I've managed to learn his song that he requested. It's been so long I was worried you weren't doing them anymore. We haven't gone anywhere. It's you who've gone somewhere. Kenny! Hello, mate. It's a Kenny P. It's a Kenny P. Kenny Petrie. We've been doing these for ages now. I can't remember how long have we been doing this now? Forever.
Is
And a day.
it 2 years, year and a half?
No, it can't be, surely.
I don't know.
No, it's not been that long. I'll have to have a look. It's Sarah behind the keyboard
Oh,
tonight.
hi, Sarah. I haven't got any green fruit pastels for you today.
Damn you. Right, so yeah, Andy requested the other week 7 Seas of Rye by Queen.
Anthony, too long.
Yep. Don't we know it? Right, I think I finally got my head around this tune. It went well earlier. So of course it's probably going to go absolutely up shit creek when I start. And we've also been having, my computer's been shutting itself down for some unbeknown reason, which
blue
is
screens of death.
yeah, which is always good fun. But shit happens and we persevere. Shall we kick it off with some 7 Seas of Rye?
I can't remember what key this is in. It's a D, I think it's there.
That sounds about right.
Oh, cheers, T.L. James. We've got to find out.
Missy!
T.L. James, 3rd of July.
So it's been over a year now. Yeah.
Thank you for the very accurate information.
She's good. You've got to admit, she is good.
3rd of July 2019, thank you very much. Actually, I did a few before that with you, didn't I?
Yeah.
I was
you did
stood
a
in for
couple.
Matt, didn't I, when you were doing the, you were on the games thing.
Oh, that's right, yeah. The days of sharing bags of fruit pastels are gone, I'm afraid.
Yeah, those were the days. I thought they'd never ended. That was from Holy Cow.
What about this? Touch. Down.
Touch.
Fear me, you lords and lady creatures. I descend upon your earth from the skies. I command your very souls, you unbeliever. Bring before me what is mine, the 7 Seas of Rye. The seven seas are bright. Sister, I live a life for you, sister. Do what I die. You are mine, I'll possess you, belong to you forever. Give out the good, give out the bad, evil cries. I challenge the mighty Titan and his troubadour. And with a smile, I'll take you to the seven seas of bright. Oh, what
Dude, I think our mics could come down a touch.
do you think?
Yeah.
Or shall I bring the backing track up?
Well, then you need my guitar needs to come up. So either things need to come down, or this needs to come up.
I think it's okay level-wise on there. I'll have another butchers. Two. Yeah! Damn! Oh, this is worrying. Could be anything. Yeah, that was that. You can do it. Do you want to play and sing it?
I can't remember how to sing it actually, dude. I normally when I do it for weddings, I just do it as an instrumental.
Ah. You've sung it for me though, on a special night, long ago.
Have we got any please actually? Can we play some please?
Oh, we can do some please. Bertie has had a couple
of outings on the harness, the leash, bless the cat.
Aww. I do love that line in that song though, was it? I challenge the mighty Titan and his troubadours.
What a great line that is. Such a great line.
Give out the good, leave out the bad, evil cries.
It's in Everlong as well. Breathe out so I can breathe you in. That's just the greatest line ever. Hi, Karen.
Excellent. One of Karen's favourite songs. Excellent.
Can't hear it without thinking of Leon. I take it that's the film Leon. So was Seven Seas of Rye in the film?
Was it?
It's a great film. That was a really good film.
Slightly creepy and pedo.
Oh, yeah. Well, very pedo. But,
but great film.
I didn't realise that was Natalie Portman. I only till a lot later on. Hi, Chris.
It's only a little bit Gary Glitter. No, Shape of My Heart.
No, Shape of My Heart.
Right, what have we got?
Actually, I think that starts in D.
We've got Every Breath You Take or Roxanne. I know when I tried Roxanne before, it went terribly wrong.
So then let's not do that. What was the other one?
Love to sell your body to the night. I could probably do it like that.
Roxanne!
Fuck it, let's try it, see what
What key is
happens.
it in?
If it goes wrong, I'll stop it. Should we find out? Nice. If it does go terrible, I'll just stop it. Roxanne, you don't have to put on the red light. Those days are over. You don't have to sell your body to the night. Roxanne, you don't have to wear that dress tonight. Walk the streets of money. You don't care if it's wrong or if it's right. Roxanne, you don't have to put on the red light. Roxanne, you don't have to put on the red light. Put on the red light. Roxanne, 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 since I knew ya, I wouldn't
No, not yet.
now, loved you since I knew ya. I wouldn't talk down to ya. I have to tell you just how I feel. I won't share you with another boy. Nobody's made up to take away your makeup. Told you once, I won't tell you again. It's a better way. Roxanne, you don't have to put on the red light. Roxanne, you don't have to put on the red light. Put on the red light. Roxanne, 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 put on the red light. High, innit?
And then they faded out like a bunch of bastards.
There is much crackle in the throat today.
I think you did really well, actually.
I didn't do too bad.
Considering this.
My voice didn't go.
Hi, Mark.
Nice.
Teal James, we've got to ask you, what's the T stand for? We need to know what your first name is if you don't mind divulging.
It's Thomas.
Thomas?
I think.
Okay.
I think. How did my gig go?
Hi, Sheila.
Right. Settle down and I shall tell ye a tale of woe. No, not really. It was interesting, I would have to say. It was kind of like an outdoor cabaret, as I thought it might be. You see now, because people struggled to get involved, as you can imagine. The pub did their absolute very best. All the tables were distanced out. They had bar service. And so you ordered from where you were sitting, and they brought the drinks out to you. So I have to give kudos to the pub, the Boar's Head. They did everything as best as they physically could in the situation. The audience were lovely, as they always are at the Boar's Head, but I feel the lack of being able to interact and having the distancing between the band and the people in the audience did make it lacked a certain something. Who won lost the Bugger Up Championship? You had early innings by fucking up the first line of the first song. That was my bad. Yes. Unfortunately, the idea of the Bugger Up Bingo didn't quite go according to plan, as silly me expected people to follow the rules that I had set out. Basically, the idea was you circled each Each song had 4 names next to it, one for every person of the band. All you had to do was circle the one person that you thought made the most mistakes. And then what I was going to do at the end, I was going to shout out what our judges thought, and then people would just kind of tick it off on their sheet. What happened was, people handed all the sheets in, so I just had them all in a bunch without any time to sort of look through. Our judge and adjudicator had circled multiple names on multiple songs, which didn't help, so basically the whole thing just fell flat on its arse. Yeah.
Do you remember us having a conversation about that?
Yeah. Yes, I do. Hello, Emma.
I am.
Yeah, so gig-wise in itself, it was the best I think it could possibly be with everything that's been put in place. But the problem is, as people drink, and we knew this was going to be a problem, yeah. As people drink more and more and more, the ideas of social distancing break down pretty rapidly. So from people sitting behaving themselves at tables, people started getting closer and closer, speaking right in each other's faces, hugging each other, as you would expect with alcohol. And I think that is where the problem is going to lie. So we shall see what the future holds. I hope we can make it work somehow. We shall see.
I've got my first gig booked.
Really? When's that?
I think it's like 15th or 13th or something like that of August at the Crown. So I think it's just like again daytime. I think it's a Saturday, so between 5 and 8. But it's just doing like an acoustic set. So I'd be interested to see how that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's inside, outside, or what they're doing, but
No. I think unfortunately alcohol breaks through all the best intentions.
yeah, but that's the nature of life, though, isn't it, dude?
It's the nature of alcohol.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it stands for the loser, sometimes the lover. Depends what I'm doing.
I'm a lover, not a fighter.
Stuart said 3 animals were having an argument over who was the best. The hawk said because of his ability to fly, he could attack anything from above. The lion based his claim on his strength. The skunk said he needed neither fight nor flight to frighten off any creature. As they debated, an alligator came along and swallowed them all. Hawk, lion and stinker. That is amazing. Well done, Stuart. Well done. Okay, ladies and gents. Are we going to spin the wheel of dastardly fortune and see what happens?
Yeah.
Why not?
Emma, I think we can answer that. Birdie has been out for a walk on his leash.
Yes, Birdie has. The Doors. Right, I think we've only got that really one.
I just haven't had time to get that other one done. I
That's
will get
fine.
it done. So.
That's absolutely fine. 'Tis no problem at all. All right, so it's going to be People Are Strange. That's the one. Plink, plonk, something else, plonk. Okay. Are you ready? It's Paul ready. People are strange when you're a stranger. Faces look ugly when you're alone. Women seem wicked. Matthew can smell us. Thieves are running, but when you're down, when you're strange, faces come out of the rain. When you're strange, no one remembers your name. When you're strange, when you're strange, when you're strange. People are strange when you're a stranger. Faces look ugly when you're alone. Women seem wicked when you're unwanted. Streets are running bad when you're down. What can you smell, Matthew? When you're strange, when you're strange, when you're strange, when you're strange. Okay, can we have some Metallica? We definitely can. So what happened to you, Kirsty? You said you've got somebody shouted abuse at you in the park. I was riding my bike through the park today and some youths were at the skate park and shouted out something incredibly offensive and abusive. Charming. Lovely people in the world.
Pal.
Yeah, that sucks.
Unfortunately, people are bastards.
Yeah, people are cunts when they are cunty.
You should be this colour and see how you get on.
Yeah.
It's a daily occurrence.
Right, I think Metallica, Master of Puppets. Why the hell not? Yeah? Yeah?
Yeah, okay. See if I can remember it.
Master of Muppets?
What's that been? I think that's it, isn't it?
Sounds good to me. But what do I know?
Nah.
He said, "Hi, Mum." Oh dear. Okay. Where were we?
Got the guitars up.
Does your version have the guitars on it? That's weird. Hang on. Una momento. I'm going to bring it up on there instead.
Okay.
Because I think we've got it. Did you do it as separate tracks?
How do you mean?
Have you...
Yeah, because I did all of it, so it's...
Okay, let me find it. No, I haven't got it as separate. So why has that got guitar on it?
There should be a little bit that's just in the mix,
Oh,
just
maybe
for,
that is it then.
for the harmonies then. But or could you bring this up a touch then?
I will do that. Oh. Sorry everyone, carry on, as you were. Yep, I can hear you. Answer that any minute, Kirsty. Nice little dance. I had a moment there, sorry. I went all Little Britain.
Nowhere Man or Bad Motor Scooter? Bad Motor Scooter, I don't know what that is.
I've heard the name. Oh, thank you, Jackie.
She's a real nowhere man, sitting in his nowhere land, making noise, nowhere place for nobody.
Something.
Something.
Something like that.
And Rex.
Kirsty said, on a very serious note, I did want to ask Simon for his opinion on something. Firstly, has anyone else watched Don't Fuck With Cats? I've only watched the first 2 episodes so far.
No.
Me neither.
I haven't seen that. Should we watch that? Is it a TV programme? Is it something...
Tell us, darling, tell us.
Please.
Yes, I wish to know more. We all wish to know more.
You've got some Neil Young, haven't you?
I think so.
Thomas Lynn.
So, we have... Where is my button that does stuff? There. So Mark asked for some chili peppers. Simon, does your hair ever get caught up in your fingers and guitar? I watch and wonder.
Sophs, could I tell you a few stories about my hair? So, normally...
I can't.
But my pubes, on the other hand. No. Normally, in normal life, no problems. No problems. Never bothers me. When I'm on stage... So what happens is my hair gets caught in the strap there. Sometimes as well, I'll be playing and get caught there while I'm playing. But the worst thing is when I'm singing, and this bit here will just go straight down my throat. And then I've got like a load of hair that's just literally sucked down, because I'll be going, and then it just goes straight down. I'm trying to sing, and of course you've got hair down your throat, so your gag reflex kicks in. You go like that, and then trying to get it out. But I'll usually be so sweaty, so you'll be doing this, and everything's just
it's like
sticking to your
like
face.
a 70s fur burger all over again, isn't it? Uncle McDonald, Montrose did Bad Motor Scooter.
Oh, Montrose. Yeah. Oh, Quo. Dude, I'd love to do some Quo.
Have we got any Quo? Let's have a look. Status. Could we do one acoustically?
Yeah, man, yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't got an acoustic.
I've got one. No, I haven't. Yes, I have. So there. Yeah, we'll busk some Quo on acoustic
I don't
for
know what
you.
I'm getting rid of that for. That's got no point. I don't know what. I'm so fucking idiot. Right. Right, so what do you know Quo-wise?
I know Down Down. We've done Whatever You Want before, haven't you?
Yeah, we did that. Awful documentary on Netflix about a serial killer who started out with...
I'm not watching that.
Most psychopaths do start by torturing animals.
This is true.
That's a well-known telltale sign of a psychopath.
Usually sort of people's pets, isn't it? And things like that, quite often.
Are we more upset and enraged by animal cruelty killing than people?
I'm the one to answer this, aren't I?
Go on then, you go. That's a really interesting question, actually, Kirsty.
Yes, I am absolutely infuriated by animal cruelty, and people I'm kind of... Because the reason is, I feel that animals don't... I feel they're more innocent than human beings, and especially depending on the kind of animal. If it was a dog, for example, that is one of the few things that I would happily murder someone over, is torture of dogs.
That's a really interesting statement. That's something I would happily murder someone over. Think about that. Think about the actual depth of that statement.
I may be exaggerating slightly.
Possibly.
But no, it's... For me.
But what's interesting about the statement is that it shows a knee-jerk reaction, and that's what's interesting about that question, Kirsty. Go on, I don't want to interrupt you. Go on, carry on.
Well,
carry on with the drivel that you're spouting out. Go on.
That is true. But yeah, I find animals are more innocent, and human beings, I think we have more of a chance to defend ourselves generally. Children are different. Children, again, are fairly innocent, fairly vulnerable, and therefore... I think sort of animals and children. I don't like kids that much, but
okay. So let's take that as a concept then, right? If right, so one of the biggest killers in the world is heart disease. Second's cancer. If a company has thought that they've made a miracle cure for cancer, So they have to try it on animals first. Because they can't go to human trials until that's... Otherwise, basically, people are walking into a gas chamber for that without being disrespectful in any way about Holocaust. So, how do you reason that?
Yeah, it's a really, really difficult one.
I know. So how do you reason that? See, that's what's interesting, isn't it? So high level, I think most people, because of especially furry animals, people are far more sympathetic to furry, cuddly animals than they are to, say, a snake or to, say, a tarantula. So, for instance, I know Kirsty's very uncomfortable around spiders and stuff like that. So thinking about, although a tarantula is furry, but there's something a lot more scary, or say sharks. So let's say tarantulas and sharks.
I love sharks.
Well, so you're in a minority there. Needless animal cruelty is unforgivable. But there you have needless and
needful.
Needful. And also, what's interesting as well is people. So there's an experiment they did with. It was monkeys. I can't remember the species. They did them with 3 different types of monkeys, and so they gave them a wire cage that was covered in fur and cuddly, and they gave them another wire cage that was, so both the wire cages in the shape of a mother figure.
Yes.
And the other cage was just bare cage, and it had a milk bottle on it, so they could get milk from that. And the cuddly one did nothing. So it was just.
Is this where they chose the nurturing one?
No, they chose a third option. They hung themselves. No, yes, yeah, exactly that. So 90% of the time they spent their time cuddling the furry cage
rather than having the food.
And that shows an innate attraction we have to cuddly furry animals. And now where animals don't speak, remember we spoke about the grudge bank before?
Yeah.
It doesn't build up anything in the grudge bank. So you have so much empathy and sympathy for the animal. Whereas with people, you kind of think, well, they're going to be a bit of a bastard. And you're less caring and you're less sympathy and you have less empathy for people. Even though, wildly speaking, intelligence, empathy, good deeds, a person would have done, even bad people in their life would most notably have done more good deeds than an animal. Because an animal is completely base, so it works just on need. The only exceptions tends to be where you have animals that are domesticised, but then they've assumed certain human traits. But generally they are base, they work on their base needs. So that's why that's such an interesting question, because we find so much empathy and we
but isn't there the point, because...
we anthropomorphise. Oh, I can't get that word out, how annoying. Anthropomorphise the...
Anthropomorphise.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
The animals, and we...
Hang on. Thank you.
We give them certain traits and identities that they maybe don't characteristically Oh man, I'm having troubles today.
You sound like me.
Innate in them. So that's why that's really interesting. Sorry, I've missed a load of comments. Can you?
But do you
go back?
Do you also think, though, that the fact is that as human beings, we're supposedly the most intelligent creature on the planet. Therefore, we surely should have the mental capability to be above the needless torture or the torture of animals. Whereas animals are running a lot more on instinct. There are some animals that play with prey, and obviously some.
Right, so all animals prey on smaller, more feeble victims. So even if you take birds, they eat worms, they eat ants, they eat spiders. They're not herbivores. And even herbivores, you'll find they'll fight each other. Sometimes like. Mice, rats, and what are those little things called?
Penises.
Oh, mate, always. No, they're kind of normal pets, like gerbils and things like that. They'll fight to the death They are absolutely nihilistic. Like robins are fucking brutal. They did tests with robins where they dressed up something and they just put a redness on it. It didn't even look like a thing. And the robin wouldn't stop till even when it pulled the head off the thing, it continues to beat it and smash at it. So that's the nature of animals, but we don't see them as that.
True. But again, I think because we have a higher intelligence,
that's a thing of social conditioning. You're presuming higher intelligence means more peace, that we should live and let live, but actually that doesn't stand. If you and there are so many tests where the more intelligence people have, the more ruthless they can be.
I can believe that.
Yeah,
actually.
so that's not an unexpected statement.
Yeah.
So again, that's a juxtaposition there.
But again, it's the whole idea of surely with the idea of reasoning and the idea of logical thought, you would be able to be a better human being. And
but we're not.
Yeah, I know. Which is really shit.
No, so I absolutely. I don't think anyone enjoy. Well, that's wrong. Certain people, voles. Sorry, just saw voles. Where I live, there's a protection order on voles. Anyway, yeah, so I agree with that, and I think a lot of people. I don't like watching nature programs when it gets to them eating, because they are fucking merciless. But that's their nature.
Yeah.
Again, we turn away and we don't want to watch it because it upsets our worldview. So with confirmation bias, cognitive dissonance, it upsets our worldview of that. That's how ruthless they are to get what they want.
But also, isn't that
which doesn't mean that they have to be treated badly. That's not what I'm in.
I mean, I think it would be different if, for example, an animal had the forethought to be able to go, well, hang on a minute, what I'm doing here is pretty horrific, and this gazelle here that I've just ripped its innards open, he was just going about his daily business, and, I might try a salad today. That's generally not what goes at the lion. The lion is like starving and going, I'm fucking hungry, and I've got these big claws, and that thing is a walking barbecue. So I'm going to have a go on that.
That's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is nature. It's in their nature and DNA. So, for instance, a tiger, no matter how domesticated or tame you think a tiger is, if you turn your back on it, it will instinctively go for the back of your neck because that's in its nature. That's as soon as they see the back of the neck, that their claws and their fangs are out and they attack. That's just their nature. And you'll find that with all animals. They have certain triggers. Dogs are the same thing. So even domesticated dogs can turn, and it's when that trigger is hit. They just go. They just instinctively act.
Yeah, but again, when you've got animals and human beings, there's a vastly big difference in the brain capacity and thought capacity and everything. That's what I mean with human beings.
But it doesn't account for fuck. It really doesn't. When you're talking about.
Oh no! If we're talking fuck here, we're all the same.
No,
we're all primal.
No, but so to go back to Kirsty's original clip. Most people would say they don't enjoy seeing animals suffer, but it's kind of a learnt modification to our inbuilt instinct. Our inbuilt instinct is to hunt and kill.
Is it though?
So think about this concept.
Yeah, but how far back do you go before when we were more foragers, weren't we? Right.
So you're on a desert island.
Oh yeah, if you've got...
No. So just think about the concept of this. Right. You're on a desert island, right? There's no other human beings there. You've done all the trying to set a fire, trying to look for planes, nothing, right? So you make some shelter to get the sun off you because that's burning you. Then you start to feel hungry. So you start to forage. And you can't find anything that's edible. But there are fish. And there are small creatures. What would you do?
Oh, no, but isn't there a difference between a primal urge and instinct than survival and the capacity of forethought to think, I'm up shit street here, I could eat that, I could eat that, I could eat that, I could eat that.
But that's the thing, survival takes you to your base instinct. That's where the base of your nature is, in the same way as a lion, tiger or whatever else. Cats and dogs have been domesticated for thousands of years, absolutely thousands of years. Of course, unless you believe that the world's only 6,000 years old, then obviously less. But but you're doing that like, oh, they're so silly. But people genuinely believe that.
Oh, I know.
So,
believe me.
And there's reasons why people believe that.
People believe crystals have healing properties, Simon.
That's absolutely right, Tom. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no,
Yeah. That's a... sorry, I'm just reading Karen's...
There's one Kirsty said as well, on one of the nature programs, a baby penguin got left behind by its mother as it fell down a really steep slope. I saw that. I couldn't watch anymore because to me, again, it's that harmless...
So birds, if there's a run to the litter, they would take the bird by the head and throw it out the nest for it to die on the floor.
It's the Spartan way.
So you could say that, but again, that's the nature, and you'll find that throughout the animal kingdom. If there's a runt of the litter, they just get left, or the mother will eat it.
But this sort of comes around to when me and you were talking about when you asked me why would I be a vegetarian, and I said the idea is because that animals have generally got enough shit going on in their lives without us unnecessarily adding to it and making it even worse. So it's, this is a predator. I've got this to look out for. I've got this to I've got my children to feed. I've got a job to go to in the morning.
You're anthropomorphizing. Oh, come on now.
No, I know it hasn't got a job to go to.
No. But you're looking at it through your lens. So if you had a conversation with a lion, just for instance, so there was, what was his name? There was a French philosopher who said if you had a conversation, I can't remember his fucking name. If you had a conversation with a lion, you would not be able, even if they could speak perfect English.
Oh yeah, you would have such a degree of separation between the two of you. You wouldn't even be able to understand anything of each other.
Yeah, 6,000 years old. That's people who, what do they call them?
Evolutionists.
Evolutionists, yeah. It's a big movement in America. Yeah, so you would not, because you have, your frame of references are so wildly different.
And like a movement, it smells of poo.
Dude, you're looking at those people from your point of view, and you're saying they're wrong, and you're kind of right. And so that's a little bit like kind of, like you were saying about virtue signalling and stuff. It's kind of an element of that.
Not really, but
you have to respect that other people have other.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not telling you you have to, but from my point of view, I think it's good to respect others. But if people think that that's the case,
but you don't have to agree with them. And
you absolutely don't have to agree with them, but you don't have to ridicule them either.
No. Are you telling me you've never ever ridiculed someone for a belief?
Never. I do my best not to. I try and give everyone as much respect as I can.
Okay,
so
say for example...
We're all a work in progress.
Say for example, you know for the fact that through science and discovery that we know that we breathe in oxygen, we can't see it, we know it's there, we breathe it in, the various...
You actually breathe in more nitrogen than oxygen. There's 79% nitrogen in the air that we breathe. Anyway, go.
Even better. So say you meet someone whose belief is that what we actually breathe in is magic fairy dust. Yeah. And what happens is that grows plants within our lungs that sprout fairies that actually power our bodies. Yeah. And they believe this so wholeheartedly, and they are saying that everything you believe is utter shit. What I believe is better. All your evidence and science-based knowledge is bollocks.
Okay.
Is it not okay to go, you're a bit of a dick?
You have the privilege to do as you damn well please. I'm just saying, for myself, I try and go, okay, why is that?
And you can say that, but generally people who believe this thing, even when you confront them with evidence and say, why is that? Here, take an alternative look. This is what the evidence shows. Yeah, but you're just in on it, aren't you? It's big fairy lung, that's what we're talking about. It's like Big Pharma, but with fairies. Yeah. It's that kind of...
And then you could take that conversation further.
All they'll do is move the goalposts. And every time you present... I've seen this happen. Every time you present evidence to people who just want to believe.
So we've had lots of conversations, especially just recently, but that's been the same thing.
No, because every time I hear new information, I take it on board. This is the thing, because I'm not personally invested.
See, so you may be right, dude. You may be right, and I may be wrong. But I tend to think, and maybe when we're finished, I'll go over a few.
As Anthony says, leave my fairies alone. Creationists, that's the one.
Creationists.
Thank you,
that's
Missy.
it, yeah, not evolutionists. We're evolutionists.
That's the point. Yes, we are, aren't we?
So I was going to say about the what was it? The apostasy? No,
Apostasy.
Apostasy. So, for instance, there's only 4 people that have been executed from that over the last 25 years or so. But America. So, and there's I think there's. Let me get this right.
Where's that? Which country though?
Sorry.
In which country?
All over. So there's 12 states, nation states, that have the death penalty for that, and there's 13. There's 15, I think, that don't have the death penalty for that. But nevertheless, that's the law of the land in the same way as anywhere else the law of the land is. But in America, they have 25 states that have the death penalty, and over the last 25 years, they've put to death something like 1,579 people. So you look at it very much in a lens from as you see it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that and you have that privilege to have whatever opinion you want, and good on you. But at the same way, you could still go, maybe take a step back and go, well, why does that person have
Yes,
that
but then that
view?
also, I've heard you use that argument before, but then when it's looking at it through a different lens or a different situation, you've said a different thing.
So give me an example.
When we talked about, I think it was, like, for example, the treatment of women and being seen as second-class citizens in some countries, being degraded, and we sort of fight it, and we fight oppression in some countries and agree that it's a wrong thing, but just because a culture or a religion that's part, say, if that is part of their culture and creed, that we're like, okay, well, that's just different. Isn't that a bit of an excuse rather than actually looking at the fundamentals of what are the human rights?
You have your belief system, but it's going to be different to another country's belief system. So if you're brought up, I don't know, say in Brazil, or you're brought up in Iran, or you're brought up in the Sudan, or you're brought up in DR Congo, or you're brought up in Sierra Leone, or I don't know, any number of places. You have certain privileges and you have certain aspects to your life that make your worldview very different from the people there. But it doesn't mean that they're wrong and you're right, or you're right and they're wrong. It's just you have a different culture.
But isn't there degrees of what you would consider, like, if you were to take extreme, like, for example, that part of their culture was to murder after your firstborn child, you then murder any child that comes out.
Okay.
Take that, for example. I don't know if it happens in the world. So
it doesn't, but go on.
Yeah, but say that was the case. Now, would you class that as, that's okay, that's just their way?
I would say that I have a problem with that from the way that I'm brought up, but I can't impose that on other people. Does that not make sense?
No, I understand that. I know you can't...
So say, for instance, you were in that country, and just say, for instance, that was the law, and you knew that was the case. That's the regime and that's the circumstance by which you live. So, for instance, the drastic change that's gone on in Hong Kong, for instance, those people there are trying to stand up because there's a change come in that's changed from the way that it was.
Yeah.
But if that's, for instance, how it's been in China, people, or say for North Korea, for instance, where they have a very different life outlook and everything to the way that we have things. We're missing so much of what's being said here. That's the regime that you've been brought up in. So you can either try and fight that from within, but for us to go, they're all wrong and they're all stupid and how ridiculous that is, I personally feel that maybe that's not great understanding, because those, in the same way as, so for instance, people that you have this, so in every element there's an extremist element. So say with, for instance, the Taliban, that's quite an extreme. Yeah. And the Taliban vary in different places, but there's certain parts where they're very extreme. They look at our life as, that's why they call people like us infidels, because we live such a liberal life, and they see it as that's sacrilege to God. But they can't. in the same way as you would find that wrong for them to impose that will on us, we can't then do the same thing to them and say that's right. Does that not make sense?
But don't you think then, for example, if a dictator is tried for like a war crime or what they would consider like a genocide or something like that?
So say, for instance, with the Serbia thing that went on, Bosnian-Serbian thing.
Yeah. So if they would say, well, I'm not saying this is the case again. I'm just thought experimenting. To say, well, the rest of the world can judge me, but because this is our belief and our religion, or it was in the spirit of our religion to carry out this genocide on these people.
Yeah.
Doesn't there come a point as human beings, as a nation, of a species, that we look at behaviours and say there is a line that should be drawn, even though we all come from different colours, creeds, beliefs and everything, there's got to be some unity at where we say, this is getting a bit shit.
So how does that work?
I know, it's an idea.
So the way it works would be that we go, we really feel strongly that those people could be treated better. So we then pass that up the line, because we live in a democracy, we pass that up the line to our governance, and then our governance then talk about it, and then they, as a resolute thing, say, right, well, we can put a motion to the United Nations, or we can, as a nation, can say we think that those are human rights violations. And that's the way, because we live in a social order of democracy, that's the route by which that travels. Does that not make sense?
Yeah, but then, in the same token, if we're to go by your line of thinking about the fact that cultures and creeds are all different, it's not up to say what's right and wrong. Should there be a United Nations who try to interfere in the business of other countries?
Well, the idea of that is that we all come together as a world and we hold hands and we try and have some uniformity within the difference. So, for instance, say in this borough they charge a certain amount for a bus fare, but in the next borough it's a lot cheaper, but then they give OAP passes at, say, 55, but they're 60 here. It's just a difference between the two. Now, this is a very mild difference, and it's a very mild thing. People are not maybe so emotive about that, but maybe people that are caught up with that, where they could get, you know, someone who's living on that border or something, they could get their pass there, and that would really help them cut the cost of their travel to do their shopping, or whatever the case is. They may be more passionate about that than someone over here. So you try and bring some uniformity as say, governance. That's the whole point of governance, is that you try and bring some... So, for instance, like with all the COVID rubbish and stuff like that, where the government are trying to say, let's put it all on you. You know, we're saying, well, we think you should do this, but, you know, let's leave it all up to businesses to do that. Businesses are there to make money. They're not there to be nice people.
Yeah.
But the government have to be there to try and set laws and standards so that people are treated well. So that's exactly where there's not proper leadership, that then causes problems, because there will always be businesses, as there were. There were loads of businesses. I think that the Inland Revenue said they were investigating something like 300,000 false claims by businesses where they've said they've got furloughed staff, so basically the government are paying people to do their job, and the company was still making out on the thing. So, for instance, there's always going to be, and that's why you have governors, and that's the whole idea of the UN, is that you can try and bring some order to this.
It's an interesting point that TL's just...
There must be loads of stuff that's going to be missed, all of it.
We'll quickly scroll through in a sec, but TL...
I'm so sorry, everybody.
No, it's a... TL said...
This is why we're always here for 2 hours longer chatting.
Yeah, this is true. As TL said, some beliefs deserve disrespect. What's your opinion on that? Do you think all beliefs should be respected?
No, so I half agree with that and I half don't, with the best of respect to you, Tom.
We all know, we're all just sharing ideas here. None of us are oracles.
So for instance, with the creationists, or flat earthers, for instance, you may want to pour scorn on them and go, how ridiculous these people are. But still, there's a reason why they believe that. There's a reason why they've bought into that, or they want to believe that. It doesn't mean that you have to go, they're instantly arseholes and idiots.
Okay, I think I can clarify my point on why I say those things.
Yeah.
Is because, for example, if a person has a belief, like I've met people of all different, say, colours, creeds, beliefs, and I do enjoy talking to them about them. I met a very nice Mormon chap. Had a very interesting conversation. Lovely as pie, really nice guy. It's when people who have certain beliefs then start challenging. So, say, for example, in certain places in America where they're trying to teach creationism rather than
Science.
rather than science, and it's that pushback and that negative impact and the damage that can be caused. So, like for example, people who believe in what the royals use, and it's basically sugar water with begins with H.
Hydrogen?
No. Please, homeopathy,
for
example.
Okay.
Now, if you want to take homeopathy, that's absolutely fine. When you start saying that, medical, for example, like for curing cancers, when you start saying that homeopathy works better than the cancer treatments we have, and you start pushing an agenda with that involved, that is when you become an arsehole. Because you don't have the evidence, to back up your claims. And the fact is that where there is good evidence, and you're actually trying to turn people to your way of thinking...
Where there is good evidence?
Well, for the things that we have, that homeopathy has been tested multiple times, and it's shown that all it has is a placebo effect. There is no registered effect.
Do you know how powerful the placebo effect is?
Oh, I know it's incredibly powerful. But when it comes to, say, for example, when you get a situation where you have people who, because of their beliefs, can actually push people, vulnerable people, into maybe funneling, especially people who, a prime example is a mediumship. Now, there's various famous mediums who prey on the vulnerable because, they've gone through a loss, they are devastated, they're so easy prey. And because of these people who are pushing these not beliefs, a lot of the time they're con artists, and actually manipulating these people, is that not wrong?
Depends where you're standing, Mike, surely. So, for instance...
On a moral level, surely.
But it depends where you're standing. Like anything, right or wrong, just depends on where you're standing. So, where you were saying you could happily murder someone who did something to an animal before, it just depends where you're standing. Normally, you wouldn't want to kill somebody, would you? So you're talking about the placebo effect. There was a study done early last year, or it was concluded early last year. I think it was from France, and then it's been replicated later. I think it was out in, I can't remember which university in America. And they did it on people that had chronic back pain. I think I've spoken about it before.
I think I heard something about it on one of my podcasts.
I think I spoke about it on here before. So it was people who had chronic back pain. So they had people that were the control group who didn't take anything. It was a large sampling as well. They had people that had been taking conventional medicine, and they had people that were given sugar tablets. And they were told, this is a placebo, it's just a sugar tablet. And the people who were the control group, they said that they didn't notice any change. The people that were on the medication, that was the standard medication, I don't think it was like a cortisone type of thing. They said that I think they had about 57 or 62% said their back pain got worse, and the people that were told it was a placebo and given the sugar tablet, they had a 70, I think it was 77, 78% increase in movement, better feeling. They said that they were feeling better, they had better movement, they had less pain, they could sleep at night. And when they examined the people, they found that they had, so your body gives out, I think it's epinephrine and norepinephrine, which is like a type of, it kills pain. So instantly, so the same thing with like BDSM and stuff like that, when you're, people slap each other and all sorts of stuff, your body gives off...
Poke things up their bum?
All sorts of things. Your body gives off oxytocin, your melatonin releases melatonin and endorphins as well, to try and make you feel better when you're hurt. and you get this epinephrine and norepinephrine, I think it is. And so that's why BDSM people get a thrill from that, because your body starts naturally trying to combat the pain so the sugar pills actually cause their body to help repair itself. And they said that this was a massive step forward in the way that people can be treated. And so when you talk about homeopathy being pointless and not working, in the lab, by going conventional science, in the lab there could be no reasonable way you could see that this completely watered down solution was having any effect on the cells that it was being tested on. But however, the psychological difference that it was having was actually causing a load of people to help cure themselves through homeopathy. They could have been just given a sugar pill, or they could have just been, given any... But because the science isn't there to really understand that arc of the story, you're left thinking homeopathy is completely pointless. No. But some people will swear that it has helped them.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, I completely understand.
So let's move on from that to where you're saying about people pushing it for cures of cancer.
Right, so for example, I've listened to loads of things about the power of placebo, and especially when it comes to pain, because pain is very subjective. So therefore, when your perception of pain and how your pain can fluctuate, and, self-reporting, especially, is very difficult when it comes to pain. But yeah, when you're pushing people, for me, and it works the same with so many different things. It's the extreme of pushing vulnerable people into certain directions, which can be fatal for them.
But people have a choice to do if they want to. See, the thing is, there's so many people that have said, "I've been cured of cancer because the angel came and blessed me on my forehead. I've been cured of cancer because I went and ran a marathon. I've been cured of cancer because someone kissed me on my anus." Whatever it may be, there's loads of strange things that people have said have cured them of cancer. Some people have just miraculously got better and doctors can't explain it. It doesn't mean that that's not real. It just means the science isn't there to explain it presently, or the whole circumstance isn't knowing. So many people go to Lourdes, so many people go to various religious monuments, statues and stuff like that, and they have said, and so the Vatican have a certain thing where before they can say something's a miraculous cure, that they have to investigate, they have to see. There's actually such a lot of evidence that they go and see and stuff. And there are people that have gone through Lourdes and then have been cured of cancer. And there's documentation to prove that that's the case, and that doctors really can't explain it. But it doesn't mean necessarily that the water did it for them, or maybe it does mean it. All it means is that we just don't understand at the moment.
So how would you say, for examples of where the actual evidence shows that what these people are pushing is dangerous?
But that's a very different thing. So, for instance, Trump saying, people should drink bleach or whatever. What was it? The Moxie... I can't remember what the name of that thing was now. Moxie, I can't remember. Anyway, that drug. And the reason why he was pushing that is because he had shares in one of the pharmacy companies that made it. But that's a different case where something can be detrimental. With homeopathy, people can see that it can be detrimental by doing that and not maybe taking chemotherapy. But if someone's choice is, I don't want to take radiotherapy, I don't want to take chemotherapy because of the amount of damage that does, and I want to try this, and I'm willing to stake my life on it, that's their choice.
Yeah, but again, it's...
All we can do is just be tolerant. I mean, really, that's what I'm saying, is if everyone was just a bit more fucking tolerant...
Yeah, but it's not just about being tolerant, is it? It's also about disinformation. It's not about honest information. It's the fact of people claiming that these things work. Now, I understand, as you're saying...
That's advertising, baby.
Yeah, but exactly. But it's that point where you are influencing vulnerable people who may not be in the best mental frame of mind.
Yeah.
And you're forcing things on them...
I didn't realise I got that.
Having a cuddle, are we?
No, I got that on the back of the neck. Sorry. Go on.
But, by doing that, this is the problem where... Again, saying that, you can respect people's beliefs and everything, that's all well and good, but it's when those beliefs...
That's all well and good?
Huh?
That's all well and good.
Yeah, because I don't believe that all all beliefs, especially dangerous and harmful ones that have shown evidence to be dangerous and harmful, or influence people in ways that could cause... I don't think they do deserve respect.
All right, so white supremacy. Let's take a real trigger one, right?
Bad idea.
Right, so white supremacy, right? That to me is kind of abhorrent.
Yes.
However, there's a reason why people warm to that. There's a reason why people get caught up in that. And as much as I find that abhorrent, I don't think I have the right to go, they're all despicable, horrible people. I can't levy that on people. If they choose to believe that, I don't particularly think that I would get on well with those people. However, I did used to work in a place where a bloke used to come in and he used to run a white supremacy thing, and he like had all the tattoos, everything up there, and he would be as nice as pie to me, and I would always just treat him as nice as I possibly could. And my idea is always, well, maybe I can change his mind just by
osmosis.
Well, not that, but by bucking the curve that clearly he again, it's that thing of confirmation bias. You look to see that and when anything bucks that trend, you go, oh, that was just exception, you forget about it. And then you see a thing that goes, see, so they are all like this, you know.
As a good point by TL, and I saw what he put earlier. He said, if we didn't stand against certain things, things wouldn't change. So the idea of slavery, if it wasn't stood up for, if we said, no, this is just the way it is, this is their beliefs, nothing would have changed. So again, how can you, someone who's really opposed against such things as slavery, is, any hopefully decent-minded human being would be, but then say that when it comes to different cultures, no, it's just their way, or it's just...
So, but there's a difference there, Mike. So, for instance, you can be... I could be opposed to... So let's go back to white supremacy, for instance. I can be opposed to white supremacy.
Yeah.
And so I say that anyone who's involved in white supremacy should be wiped off the face of the earth. Am I not, by the same token, doing the same... having the same kind of mindset? So maybe there's a better way to do it.
Yeah, I agree. I think there is a way that I don't want people, just because they don't share my belief, exterminated.
Yeah, but maybe better if everyone tried to, which I know is not being realistic, so I know I'm talking like a utopian thing, so this is ridiculous really, but if everyone just had a bit more tolerance, a lot of our more, and so we were talking about this before, that there was again a load of studies done, and everyone has some form of bigotry in them. And the thing is, very often you'll have a form of bigotry that you don't understand. You don't actually know that you have a form of bigotry because it's normal to you. So very often it's things that your parents have bred into you and the people that you've associated with.
Environments you've grown up in.
Exactly. And it seems so normal to say these things, or it seems so normal to have these opinions, and you don't realise that maybe, because you're in that particular mindset and that group, that is the norm, that you can be unaware of your own bigotry. So again, everyone sets off by thinking they're right. Everyone who's a white supremacist thinks they're right. They think that is the right thing to be. Now, me personally, I don't agree with it, but I wouldn't have everyone exterminated. I think maybe that it's a lack of education that has brought them to that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there is I think when we talked about this before, I don't think you agreed with me when I said there's a difference between, as you say, a bigotry through almost unrealised learned behaviour, and bigotry when you have all the facts, yet you still go out to be a bigot. I think there's a difference. If you've grown up in an environment where you don't know any better... So
that's kind of the... Ignorance is an excuse kind of argument, really.
But doesn't that, if people literally do not know any better, how can you condemn them if that's all they know?
So let's go back then to the apostasy.
But we can still say through education that...
But they've been brought up like that. So they're under the idea that is the right thing. That is, and not just the right thing, that's been passed down from God to them.
Yeah, again,
that is
which
the right
is why
thing.
I find religions incredibly dangerous.
Okay, well that's fair enough. That's you have the privilege to have that opinion. No one's forcing you to have any other opinion, but you have that privilege. But in other places, people don't have that privilege. They don't have the option to be able to have independent thought. They don't have the option to be able to speak their mind. They don't have the information a lot of the time as well.
So don't you think that is something that worth standing up to, or do we just respect their ways and let them carry on?
I think that's twofold. I think you can still respect where they've come from, but you can try and bring education. So a bit like kind of the missionaries going out to far-flung places and taking the word of God, for a better example of saying it. But yeah, so it's not something that you agree with, but these people genuinely believed wholeheartedly in that faith, and they thought that these are all wretches that are going to burn in the fires of hell unless I give them the word of God. Once they have the word of God, they will then have immortality, and they genuinely believe that.
Oh no,
So that's greatly opposed to what you believe, but you have to respect that it came from a good place, or it came from their upbringing, or it came from the way that they didn't know any better. Or at least we think we know better, but maybe we're wrong and they're right.
So what you're saying is then ignorance. So it seems like at times you're making one argument for one, but then changing your argument for a different.
So explain that to me. Give me an example.
Like when you talk about certain people of different cultures and everything, then there is more of a, you've got to understand where they've come from this, and then, but then if I say, well, then doesn't that make, with certain bigotries, ignorance is an excuse. Then when it comes to bigotry, you have a different opinion of ignorance than people who grow up in, say, maybe a religion that has quite sort of bigoted ideals. You seem to flip.
I don't get that. What I'm saying is you can understand it, but then you can try and... So, for instance, when we've spoken about stuff, I can understand what you're saying to me, but then I will try and give you my opinion. It's up to you whether you take those on board or you don't.
Do you see, for example, that the ignorance of, say, a religion growing up to how they treat people, do you see that different to ignorance in bigotry of, say, race?
To me, it's all part of the same thing. It's different aspects or different facets of it. That's how I personally see it.
Just, I think when you talk about it, when it comes to the subject of race, there's things that you would condemn.
Like what? Give me an example.
Or I think when we talked about the idea, when you were talking about the, was it Slovakia or Czechoslovakia?
I don't know what you're going to say. So
with the sex trafficking of the women. And I said, because sort of the way we intervened with the whole slavery thing and the oppression of black people and everything, and the oppression of women, and that's something that should be stood up to and fought against. I think we were talking about that, and then we brought that up as a subject, and you sort of saw them as slightly different, when I saw it as fighting oppression on all fronts.
Right, we spoke about that differently. So you're saying we intervened in slavery? When we fought... I'm not trying to tie you in knots. Just take your time. Explain exactly what...
Like the abolition of slavery and the fighting for equal rights and trying to create equality and everything. We all know that, well, hopefully, a lot of us know that is what we are striving to achieve. Yeah. And oppression, sort of fighting against the oppression of women, all these kind of things. Now... why is it that in some societies that's something that we can all get behind? Right. But then when it comes to a society, just because they have a religious background, that's...
So go back to the Slovakian...
it was something that you brought up about the sex trafficking that was going on...
No, I wasn't talking about that. So you brought that up and you were saying about
because
that.
I'm going back
trying to explain how that actually worked.
Yeah, it was a conversation that we were having back then. Yeah. So I can't remember all the details of it, so it's probably no point bringing it up, to be honest.
Okay, all right, so move on then.
Yeah. So why is it then, in the Western ideal, that we can all get behind the idea of fighting against oppression, but then when we go to other areas of the world, we look at the oppression going on there and we have to sort of say, well, it's just the ignorance of where they come from.
So, so That's I kind of got a bit of a problem with. So it's not necessarily the ignorance of where they've come from, it's just kind of where they are at the moment, or maybe that's their mindset. So for instance, in China and Korea, it's such a different type of regime. So for instance, I remember 2003, I was out on tour.
Sorry, Kirsty.
Sorry. All right, Simon is missing a point. You can't understand where they're coming from. That doesn't mean you should allow it if it hurts others. No, I'm not saying allow it in any way. No,
Well, but that's the standing up to.
I'm saying that holding people to ridicule is not necessarily my way of dealing with things. That's what I'm saying. So if anyone wants, like, you have the freedom to do whatever you want. Like, and you're lucky. Like, we're lucky in the Western world that we have that. In places like Korea and China, they don't have that freedom.
Yeah.
So I'm really not saying that if it hurts anyone, that should be allowed. I'm really not saying that, Tom, at all.
Yeah, well, so I mean, it's, again, so if in the West we stand up against, and there had to be such strong, what's the word? Like for change to happen, it had to be a real, this was almost like a fixed regime, wasn't it, with the whites and the blacks, and it was a very dominant, horrific period of time. Yeah. But for change to come about, there had to be a very, very strong push against it. Yeah. So when you say, oh, that's just again, it's almost like a disconnect. Oh, that's just where they are at the time. And, it's such a fixed thing that they live in. Yeah. But so was that. And we still push to change that for the greater good of what we considered mankind. Yeah, but I'm not saying that change is bad. I'm not saying don't bring about change. I'm just saying that maybe some tolerance in the way that you deal with people. So, for instance, where you might ridicule people for being creationists, you can still disagree with that. What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with holding a different opinion. But can you still look at the abhorrence of certain things to the certain abhorrence?
So with the creationists, but you don't have to kind of say that, oh, they're all a bunch of idiots.
No,
they just hold a different opinion to you.
What I'm talking about when I say that, is the idea of it, because it flies in the face of everything that science has. Yeah. So therefore, I'm not talking about the people, because they're going to be a grand spectrum of all different...
Yeah, but the ideal is made up of people. It's not like it's a thing that just occurred and then people come under the umbrella. No. It's representative of a people.
Yeah, but it's still an ideal, and it's the ideals that I don't agree with, or an idea. And again, all these different people who say are into creationism are all going to believe different aspects to different degrees. You may have someone who is a whole, full-on, I believe everything...
But you get that with religion, though, as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like when we were talking about the apostasy, you have these different factions. You have things where they're all a lot more... In every religion, you have an extremist faction in every religion. And then you have more moderate people. And in general, the majority of people are moderate, but the people with the loudest voice are usually the absolute smallest group. But so it'd be like saying white supremacist is the majority. No, it's not. It's an extremely small group that are extreme. They're on the fringe, in the same way as there'll be some sort of black equivalent of that that's going to be extreme and on the fringe. But that's not representative of everybody, in the same way as if different religions will have their extremism. Different, even in music, you'll have different groups. Yeah. But like you'll have the mainstream, and then you have these little fringe elements that have extremism.
But isn't there certain maybe beliefs or
there's nothing wrong with saying I disagree with that or I disagree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. But you have to admit that in certain areas and certain things that people believe, you have to accept certain supposed realities to invest in that. So, for example, to be a creationist, if you believe the creationist, take Christianity, for example, or you have to believe that there is a God. Yeah. So there are certain inherent things that you have to believe to be a part of certain ideas and beliefs. Mm-hmm. Yeah? And
certain tenets.
Tenets, yeah. David Tennant. So I
believe in David Tennant.
Oh, we all do. By the way, if you haven't watched it, watch the series called Staged. It's really, really good. David Tennant and Michael Sheen.
Oh yeah, I watched that. It was really good.
It's great. I loved it. But so because of that, therefore you have to say, for an example, to be a creationist, you have to believe that the Earth is 6,000 years old. Say that is the case. I'm not saying it is. I'm saying if that was the case.
Yeah.
So you have to believe in a fundamental thing that is completely against all the science and evidence we have. You can disagree with that and say that that is a stupid idea.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. So that is if I ridicule something, I'm not ridiculing a person for all the beliefs they hold. It's the certain fundamentals, tenets, as you said, that I disagree with, that fly in the face of everything we know. That's when I consider being able to call something stupid.
Right.
That's my 20 million cents.
But you have the privilege to be able to do that.
Isn't that a privilege that a lot of people in the world we should be fighting to have as well? To be able to have an opinion without being punished or killed for it?
Yeah.
So thanks for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Jesus, we better apologise to everyone. Sorry, everyone. This is
we missed everything going on, didn't we? So we were talking so intently.
Saw someone dressed as a crab blocking the entrance saying these people can be so shellfish. Apologies, folks. I think in future we will try and keep our long conversations specifically to evenings where we do that.
That's really interesting. Reply to T.L. James, and that's exactly why we still have racism, Simon, because people tolerate it. So,
do you think that racism should be fought on all fronts, even if it's part of, say, a religious doctrine? Does having the label of religion give you a golden ticket to...
I think that racism is something of education. So there's a lady called... I can't remember what her name was now. She did this experiment... I can't remember her name. She did this famous experiment in her classroom where she split the kids up and she said, the brown eyes have a certain status and the blue eyes have a certain status. And then they were given certain treats and stuff, and she was kind of explaining it was a white classroom to get the kids to understand racism, and she was greatly pilloried by the very kind of middle class. She was an American teacher. I can't remember. I've got a name on my phone. Actually, I'll look it up.
Well, you're going to give her a call. We went out for a couple of dates.
It's a really interesting experiment, actually.
By the way, people, in future, if we start going off like this, please, all of you, just tell us more music, less talking, because we will accidentally, we just get so engrossed in this.
Jane Elliott, that's the one. Jane Elliott.
You can tell that she lives with you. The two of you, I think, are just the entire encyclopedia of the world.
And what was really interesting about her experiment is that she showed it was more about education and people understanding. So when you say fighting something, it depends on how you express that.
I don't mean
unfortunately
killing anybody.
Yeah, but unfortunately, a peaceful march has never changed anything. That's the sad fact of human life.
Well, we said this before, the peaceful march hasn't, but it's the opposition that has attacked
every time something kicks off or every time there's a commotion or anything, that makes the headlines, that makes people aware. Again, this is kind of a sad indictment on human beings and the way that we relate and we conduct ourselves. So I don't know whether it's that we tolerate racism. I think certain areas certainly do, Thomas. They certainly do tolerate racism, but a lot of the times it's lack of education, it's lack of empathy, and I read the comments anyway.
I'm actually just looking. Oh, we missed a Pinto fact. Hang on. There's been a lot of Pinto facts this evening. Shall I quick...
So the pork scratching hotline couldn't get through, just crackling on the line.
Nice. There it is. I'll quickly read through them.
Yeah, dude.
Anthony, leave my fairies alone. Heather, if they're disrespecting you, then that's different to holding a different belief. Agreed. Kirsty, maybe Simon's a secret lizard.
Maybe.
Are you part of the Illuminati? TL, the ability to rationalise doesn't give humans the ability to rationalise well. That takes work and evidence.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay, we'll just flick through these and we'll go agree or disagree.
Yeah.
We're not going to go into each one. Kirsty, I'm going to attempt to make things a bit lighter and share with you a conversation between me and my 4-year-old about boobies. You missed a conversation about boobies.
I love boobies.
Oh, damn it. We agree, boobies are great. Karen, I agree, Simon, and the trouble is people never see others' views and try to understand them. This is why there is so much conflict and hate in the world.
Yeah, I would say that's part of the problem.
Okay. Kirsty, so Nancy was watching me getting distressed the other day and asked, when will I get boobies? I said, ooh, maybe when you're about 11 years... 11 years old?
11 years old?
Jesus Christ, they've grown quick in your family.
Popping them out, left, right and centre.
TL, belief systems aren't necessarily the truth. You could rationalise anything with cultural religion. Doesn't make it true. Slavery was rationalised. Should we have accepted it? I say no. Heather, I was
so again, at the time, why did people accept that? And I believe, again, that's something to do with education, really. You know, it seemed like, we could take these people for nothing and get them to do all our shit. Fantastic.
But doesn't there come a point where education is one thing, but then surely there has to be punishment at some point?
So this is where you were talking about, like cancel culture and stuff like that. That's what I see with that, is that, something that I've forgotten his name now, he was the writer of, what was that? Oh, fucking hell. The film with Trainspotting. He was the writer of the film. And he said...
Guy? No, it wasn't Guy Ritchie.
No. And he said, would we have a statue of... oh, God, I'm just forgetting everyone's name. Who was used to do... now then. What's his name?
Excuse me?
Now they used to have a cigar.
Jimmy Savile.
Jimmy Savile, that's it. He said, "Will we have a statue of Jimmy Savile up, knowing what he had done?" And I thought that was actually a really good point. You know, so with certain statues where you know what the history is and stuff like that. But ultimately, as a society, we decide, no, that's acceptable, that's not acceptable, and then we work to... You know, in the same way as we're talking about the United Nations and stuff like that, you try to have some sort of consensus of, we think this is the right way to behave, so we will do that. You talk about gay rights, and I mean, that's something that we've seen in our lifetime, how that has improved. It's still nowhere near where it should be, but it has improved somewhat.
I think with the cancel culture, what we're talking about is, for example, someone put it a really good way, is that when people take offence to things, and people then feel that if I'm feeling uncomfortable, then you must be responsible for making me feel uncomfortable. And it puts all the emphasis on the other people and the world rather than, well, it may be something inside, or maybe something to do with your views or beliefs that's making me feel like that. Right. And it's because I'm feeling uncomfortable, therefore you must be responsible, therefore you must be shot down. Right.
But in the same way, I would say that's similar to the way that you kind of look at, like, when flat earthers or something like that. Like, oh, they're so ridiculous.
But I wouldn't try and get them... I think if...
You wouldn't get them banned.
No, but again, when you have scientific evidence and then when they're trying to push it into the school system that goes against the scientific evidence, then you're going to create a problem.
Yeah. So, but then as a community or as a social entity, we say, no, we generally believe in the scientific data, so we want that instituted. Or if the bigger consensus is, no, we really like the fact that... so they work to the Jewish calendar of 6,600 years old. No, we believe in creationism, so we want that, and then that gets instituted. Yeah. That's the thing of being in a society, though, surely.
Yeah, but then there's also the idea of society can backtrack, can't it, due to ideas where... when
things have changed since the original.
Yeah, when people start pushing back against ideas that we have all the evidence base, but just because people don't like the outcome, or the outcome happens to go against, like, for example, when it comes to, like, transgenderism.
Yeah.
And there's the idea of that if if someone identifies as transgender, like a child, they should be given various hormone blockers and everything. Now, there is evidence out there to say that a lot of people who identify as transgender, as they get older, they no longer identify as transgender.
But that evidence has started to be raised later than the earlier evidence that originally brought in the idea of, well, maybe we can administer drugs early. So that's now being, again, so there was a study that was just literally, I think about 4 or 5 months ago that the paper was released, and that said about a load of transgender people being changed, and they had a good few examples. But again, the thing that always comes back is the sampling's too small to really be. So this is kind of, scientific evidence on a too small a thing to be able to really gauge a thing. But still, people obviously are going to have an opinion, and that's socially, we kind of have to debate it and go, we think this is the particular way.
But that's the problem. That is the really big problem. People don't want to debate it.
But you see,
can I just say, because people have an invested agenda into a lot of things, and sometimes it flies completely in the face of the evidence that's out there. But because they are so invested, they want their reality and their truth to trump what the evidence says. So they want people to be shot down, they want people to be sort of ideas that would contradict them, maybe show up their ideas to be false, to be eradicated, to make themselves feel better.
But again, that's unfortunately, if you live in a society, that's life. So, and again, moderate people generally just want to carry on and keep quiet. But you're going to have that extreme fringe element that are going to have the loudest voice and shout the loudest.
And unfortunately, sometimes they are the ones that get heard, and sometimes they are the ones that, because they shout loud enough, the innocents actually suffer because of it.
That's life.
But surely it's something worth, as I say, standing up to and trying to...
Yeah, so the more people do, then the louder the opposition, and then society finds its voice of which way it wants to go with that. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, Jackie's had enough now. Simon, is your guitar prop? So miss you putting it into motion. Right, very sorry. I'm sorry, I asked about boobies. This isn't Leg's Diamond, thank you, Steve. But yes, of course, there is no reason or excuse for violence or oppression in any way. Is there an excuse for violence or oppression in any way?
See, what's interesting with that
we'll have to make it quick.
Is then think about that in the context of state-sponsored murder.
Okay. Some beliefs deserve disrespect. We've already covered that one. I don't think we should ever start out being rude. If the other person is rude first, then that might change things. But I try never to be rude or disrespectful first, regardless of what I personally might think of the view or belief.
Yeah,
fair enough.
I like that.
Okay. Religion was a big part of racism. That deserves no respect. If folks wouldn't have challenged that, where would we be? We've already addressed that one, I think. Simon is swaying like someone who just got out of a loony bin. That's when you were talking and you were doing that. It's all right.
Who said that?
Anthony. Is it dangerous to push your beliefs onto others, just to be open-minded and respectful to others, accept that every single person on earth is unique and different to anyone else? Good luck with that.
But that's a nice thing to aim for. I like that.
I agree. The utopia is a wonderful idea to aim for. Unfortunately, the vast majority of human beings will fall short.
Yeah.
Emma,
anyway, still nice.
Emma, I was brought up in a cult where it was a demonology belief that they didn't believe illness existed. If you didn't believe the same, you got isolated.
Oh, it's really sad.
Yeah, that's a really shit extreme of a life to have lived, so that is horrible. Jackie, another string to your bow, Simon, you should write a book. TL, replying to Karen, okay, this is between Karen and TL, so we should leave that between them. I agree with you there, but I think they're still chatting. Yes, we do have to stand up when people are being killed, oppressed, etc., but to help to end this, we need to look deeper. Cultures, etc., like the guys are saying, education is needed. I agree with a lot of different bits of this chat. That's a great thing about having a conversation and a debate. You will agree with some things, you will disagree with others.
Go on, so where are you?
Simon is missing a point. You can understand where they're coming from. That doesn't mean you should allow it to hurt others. Yeah. Kirsty, I'm off to bed. Stuart's jokes, yeah, we've had that. Jane Elliott, yeah, we had that. Neil, replying to Neil Hinsey, Anthony Murch was Blackbird. Hello, Neil. Right, we're at the end. Let's quickly play...
Sorry, if God was all-powerful, then he could create a rock so massive he couldn't move it. But if he couldn't move it, would prove he wasn't all-powerful.
There we go. Epiphany. Right, TL did ask for some Neil Young. I do believe we have... it would be Rockin' in the Free World, wouldn't it?
I think that's the only one we've got by him, yeah.
Rockin' all over... No, we haven't. Have we got it down there? No, we haven't got it. After all that.
I'm sure I've seen it.
I thought we did. Apologies, no, we haven't. Right, let's pick something you can do that's nice and widdly. Pick something.
I don't care, anything, just...
Let's spin the wheel.
Okay.
We'll do... Shall we make a promise to everyone not to have these big, long discussions on camera, unless on a specified date?
Okay.
All right, sorry, everyone. Oh, dear. Right, if our talking hasn't put you off this wheel... Living the Big Loco, isn't it?
Superstition, black cats and voodoo dolls. I
beat to it. You right for that? Okay, straight into blurry. Here we go.
When you shoved it in my face.
is definitely it for us tonight because I've got work in the morning. And did you know that more people left during Ricky Martin than the entire of our massive conversation?
Oh, that's so funny.
Right, thank you very much for sticking with us, guys. Apologies for us going off on a...
Also, as well, thank you very much for joining in and joining in.
We really appreciate it. You guys are absolutely awesome, and it's really nice that you all do take part. Maybe what we'll do, maybe say perhaps the first Wednesday of the month we have like a chat one or something. No, because otherwise if we end up doing this and we end up doing loads of talking and not a lot of playing for people...
Yeah, we just got to not talk so much.
I know, true. All right, but yeah, thank you for being awesome, everyone, and sticking with us. We do appreciate it. Remember, tell us to shut up. We are perfectly fine with being told that. Believe you me. So take care, everyone. Thanks very much, Karen. Cheers, TL. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Emma. Thank you, everyone. And take care. It's time for bed.
Yeah, enjoy a good few days, and we'll see you Saturday.
For lots of music.
Yes.
Loads of music. Just keep the requests coming and we'll just pump them out like a bull's testicle. Spraying music all over you.
A big musical cum shot.
Exactly. Bye.